Andy Stanley is a pastor, communicator, and best-selling author. In 1995, he founded North Point Ministries, which has grown from one campus to 5 that are attended by more than 25,000 people, making it the largest church in Metro Atlanta. North Point has helped plant over 30 strategic partner churches globally. The senior pastor, a husband and father of 3, has, I am sure, a rich experience of the grace of God in his own life. We are featuring his latest book, and we're making it available to you throughout the month of August right here on 100 Huntley Street. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you very much, Moira. It's great to be with you.
From Alpharetta?
Alpharetta, Georgia, about 20 miles north of Atlanta. We just say Atlanta.
Okay, well, there's not too much that's just about this story. You just brought me up to date. USA Today did a survey of top churches in the U.S., and I'm asking you to tell us the outcome of that.
Well, on that list, we're the second largest church in the United States right now, behind Joel Osteen. He's always going to have the largest church, and I love Joel. And those lists, they change year to year. But yeah, we're very excited about the way God's blessed, and we love ministering to lots of people.
Hugely significant.
Yeah.
And I am told one of the top 5 communicators in America today.
My wife thinks so.
Why have we not seen you before this?
I don't know.
You've been too busy.
I don't know. It's great to be here, though, and I appreciate this opportunity.
We are just can't get enough. I'm going to start with a quote that I think is from your book, The Next Generation Leader.
Mm-hmm.
You write, "I'm constantly telling leaders that the key to their success is for them to only do what only they can do." Now here's what I want to know. At what point in your still young life did you determine that the thing you need to do is preach, pastor, church plant?
Well, my dad's a pastor, obviously. You've had him on your program, very famous, and so it was so interesting.
We need to just pause for those who
don't
might
know.
have missed it.
Yeah.
Dr. Charles Stanley of In Touch Ministries.
Right.
Watch him every Sunday. You may listen to him on the radio, and I interviewed him last November.
Yep.
That was aired in January, so we already feel a family connection.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, growing up as a pastor's son, my parents put no pressure on me at all to go into ministry. And in fact, when I was probably a sophomore in college, I sat down with my parents. In fact, I had a conversation with my dad. This might be interesting. And I had friends who were going forward in our services, and from time to time, they would surrender to ministry. They'd go down and talk to my dad privately and say, "I feel like God's calling me to ministry." And I never felt that. I never felt a call. So one day we were talking. I said, "Dad, do you have to be called into ministry, or can you just volunteer?" And he said,
"You don't have to feel a mighty
yeah,
tug."
I haven't heard a voice. I said, "Can you just volunteer?" He said, "I think you can volunteer." I said, "Well, I would like to volunteer for ministry. It's what I want to do." So he said, "Well, let's tell your mom." So we went in later, and I told my mom, and she said, "Well, I'm not surprised. I've known that for a long time." I said, "Really?" I said, "Why didn't you say something? I feel like I've just been roaming around trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life." And she said, "No, I've known that for a long time." But my parents were so wise. They never planted that seed. They never pushed me. They never even encouraged me. They just let me chase opportunities and encouraged me whatever I did. And so I've tried to do that with my own kids.
Who are your kids? How old are they?
Yeah,
today?
I have a 19-year-old son, a 17-year-old son, a 15-year-old daughter. So we have our own youth group right now.
Oh, look at this wonderful family.
Yeah, my son just graduated from high school this past spring and is headed to Auburn University in Alabama. So
Your beautiful wife, Sandra, on
yeah,
the right?
I definitely, as Dave Ramsey says, outpunted my coverage.
Wow.
So yeah.
Beautiful family, and completely in the teen zone.
Yeah. But what's great?
You're
people
not
say,
even gray.
Well, that you can see. We've loved every stage of parenting, and this is our favorite. For one reason, two of them can drive themselves around and drive their sister around. Oh gosh, yeah. That
more
whole
free time.
Yeah. So we've loved every single stage, and sending our first son off, our first child off to school, a little bit emotional, but hey, that's the goal. So.
And nothing too scary as you are in that teen age stage.
And you know what? I contribute so much of it. I have a great wife. We both had great parents, so I feel like we copied what our parents did, and our parents parented very similarly, which is unusual. But our church has invested so much in our kids, and our student program, our children's programs are so strong. In fact, they're so good. I tell people when they say they're going to visit our church, I say, don't bring your children. And they say, well, don't you have children's programs? I say, our children's programs are so good that if you bring your children, they are not going to want to go back to your current church. I said, now you've been warned. I mean, they're that good.
Well, let me just endorse that, because a dear friend of mine, a children's pastor, headed up kids stuff.
Oh, really?
In a church in Saskatoon,
wow,
Saskatchewan, which was the first in Canada to do your program full time.
Yep.
Fully, every Sunday.
Yep.
And amazing. I mean, tell us in a word. I mean, the integration is, I think, the key thing.
And none of that was my idea. That's why I can brag about it and not feel like I'm being proud. The people that launched our children's ministry years ago, Reggie Joyner, who now has his own organization, they just did a phenomenal job capturing the imagination of children and capturing the connection that needs to be there between parents and children. We have a program that we say this is where kids take their parents to church. And so consequently, our student ministry too, our middle school, high school ministry, they're so well done. They really have captured the fascination of this generation of kids and connected them to their Heavenly Father and connected them to the local church. So as a parent, I feel like all these years I've had a partner in everything I've tried to do. So I give God the credit for my kids, my parents the credit for our kids, the church credit for our kids, and so it's been great.
Really key that parents and their children are learning the biblical values, the moral values. At the same time, they're on the same page.
And have tools to talk about them at home. And that's one of the things we've tried to do is say, let us start a conversation for you around the dinner table. For years we've sort of put it on the backs of fathers to be the spiritual leader in the home. And men say, I want to be the spiritual leader in the home. And then they get home and it's like, so what do I do? What do I do? So it's not enough to say be the spiritual leader. There needs to be equipping. And we've learned that equipping doesn't happen in a classroom. Equipping happens when we hand a father a tool to say, here's what to do. Let's help you start the conversation. You've got enough life experience and wisdom to carry the conversation. Sometimes men just need a conversation starter, and women as well, especially single moms sometimes in that difficult season of life they're in. So we've tried to help start conversations at home, continue those conversations at the church, and then reinforce those conversations through programming.
I'm probing a little because, of course, everybody wants to know the secret of your success. After 10 years at First Baptist, your dad's church in
I
Atlanta,
worked for him for 10 years.
Working with high school students primarily.
Right.
You left with a bunch of friends.
Yep.
A handful.
A big handful.
How many?
A couple of handfuls. Well, I worked for him for 10 years. His church was transitioning out of downtown Atlanta to the suburbs. I had been in the suburbs on a piece of property getting that started. And then I came in one day and said, I'd like to go do this on my own. I'd love to do this with some of the same people I'm doing this with. And so all church.
Caught the vision.
Yeah, well, and again, he gave me the opportunities. I say that all the time. My success in ministry, God has given me gifts, granted, but my dad gave me opportunities, and he took his hands off. He let me do things
Your way.
My way, even when he disagreed. And we would disagree behind the scenes. We still disagree behind the scenes sometimes, but when the conversation's over, he trusts me. He has entrusted me to God, and it's just a great dynamic.
Clearly, when I talk to him, proud of
he is
what you're doing.
And the relationship is such that I still feel like, as different as we are in terms of style, our theology is the same. I can still go back to him and say, okay, when you were at this stage, what were you thinking? When you hit this mile mark, I still glean lots of wisdom from him. So that part couldn't be better.
I wish we could visit or get a taste of a typical Sunday experience at
actually,
North Point.
your listeners can. We stream our services live every Sunday morning and every Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock at northpointonline.tv. Just northpointonline.tv, the entire service. Music, baptism, everything.
And I'm just realizing now that you've spread right up here to Canada. I know about Connexus in Barrie.
Yeah.
That's one of your satellites.
Yeah, Kerry Newhoff's the pastor there. He's got 2 locations, and he's one of our strategic partners, speaks for us at our conferences, and is an incredible communicator. So.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Your comment at the outset of this was, Atlanta doesn't need another church.
Yeah.
So what have you got?
Yeah, when I met with our first group to launch our church, I said, look, We all passed a half dozen churches to get to this meeting about starting a new church. Atlanta does not need another church. There's probably not a city in the United States that needs another church. We felt like 15 years ago Atlanta needed a different kind of church. And so from the very beginning, we wanted to be a church that unchurched people loved to attend. That's been our byline, that's been our vision, to create a church that unchurched people love to attend. That they would attend, sit back and say, I'm not sure I buy all that, I'm not sure I agree with all that, I'm not sure I like all that, but there's something about these people, there's something that was said that was helpful, my kids feel connected to this, and even though I'm not sure I buy in completely, I want to come back next week. That's been our vision. And so, there are a lot of unchurched people in the metro Atlanta area, so we've been successful, and now our vision is to create churches that unchurched people love to attend.
Well, I'm impressed that in 2006 you were voted the third most influential church in America. And we've been talking here on this program about the goodbye generation. 18 to 35 are saying,
goodbye, yeah.
I don't need church.
Right.
You're finding a way to make it relevant.
That's our target audience. And we're not the only ones. There's some other great leaders doing great innovative things for that age group. But to us, that is the target audience, because that's the group that has said goodbye. I don't need church. I'm fine with God. I'm even fine with my own form of religion, but I'm not going to participate in the local church. And we've said, no, that's not going to work, because the church is the expression of the grace of God in our community and in the world. And Jesus established the church as His voice and His body. And we want that age group to reconnect with His body.